here we go.
We press record.
Press the button.
We're doing it.
Yes.
It's March 20th. It's daily Stoic time. You know the deal.
You know the deal.
We're gonna read and try to figure this out. And sometimes we do better than others.
We do good. We do well.
March 20th. Ready and at home.
Okay, that does nothing for me, but as far as title goes, ready at home.
Ready, like, okay, I'm alert, I'm here, I'm like, I got my feelers out for danger.
And I'm home.
And I'm home, like I'm calm, I'm relaxed.
Sure, something.
Who knows? Let's see if we can figure it out. Okay. Seneca. Seneca says today, I may wish to be free from torture, but if the time comes for me to endure it, I'll wish to bear it courageously with bravery and honor. Wouldn't I prefer not to fall into war? But if war does befall me, I'll wish to carry nobly the wounds, starvation, and other necessities of war. Neither am I so crazy as to desire illness, but if I must suffer illness, I'll wish to do nothing rash or dishonorable. The point is not to wish for these adversities, but for the virtue that makes adversities bearable.
Very cool.
Wow, that one
Yeah, that's
is deep.
Good.
That one hits real deep.
Yeah, because that's your mindset has to be like prior to bad things happening or bad times happening, you like decide to go through those bad times with honor and with like kind of not avoiding the hardship or something, like taking it, kind of like, yep, this is where we are. We got to take it. We got to deal with it. Not avoiding it, but dealing with it. Like that's like, and it's essentially like, but dealing with it with pride, not with like bitching about it, right? Like, oh, I don't want to do that.
Or anger.
Or fear, right? Or all of those emotions that want to rise up during these fearful times. Those are the ones that the way you can maybe control them, not control them maybe fully, but the way you talk to them is like, hey, I'm living life, and these are the cards that the life dealt, and I'm gonna go fully live my life through this pain, through all of this. I want to experience it, even though this might be the end of my existence or something. You know, that's hard, because it's one thing to be scared of death, like, oh, the day will come and, you know, I will die or go through some pain and then I'll die and I'll disappear or something, right? Like that's one philosophical idea. But then there's this other one of like, well, not only I'm not gonna be afraid of it, but I'm actually like proud of being put in that situation or something, you know? Like I don't wanna, like he's saying, don't call it onto yourself. Like it's not, don't be crazy to, like I'm not crazy to want it, but when it is here, I didn't want it, but it is here. So now I'm gonna deal with it with this pride and with this like ownership and like extreme ownership type of, you know, yeah, like extreme ownership regardless of good times or bad times. Yeah.
And the last few days has been so much about this sort of like, there's an aspect of reality that we can't control. You know, like we're talking about what we can control and what we can't control. Mm-hmm. And we've been talking about the importance of not trying to lead life, like letting life present the moment that it's going to present to us, and then we have control over how we react to that. And now today is all about like, okay, well, sometimes the thing that life serves you is like the worst thing in the world. It's like your worst nightmare.
So you might say, oh, that's, I don't have a control over it, therefore, like, forget about it, right? Type of a thing, like yesterday we were talking about, right? But maybe you can do that. Maybe you have to go through it. And so then how do you go through it? Well, it's better to go through it with this attitude of pride in it and ownership, versus this like, oh, these cards were dealt to me like poor me type of a thing,
Right. Well, the poor me, again, would be us focusing our attention on things that we can't control.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, poor me for contracting this virus or something, it's like, well, like, it sucks, I didn't want it, it happened, it's already here. So for me to spend time saying poor me, the worst thing ever happened, I'm putting my focus on an area that has already been decided and I have no control over, so I feel helpless, I feel like a victim. Or
It feels like there's no decisions to be made.
Right, it feels like, well, what can I do? What can I do?
Have already been made.
Exactly. And so now my attention is here.
Yeah.
But we know from the last few days, it's that, well, we always have certain parts of reality that we can control, which is our perspective and what we say and what we do. And so like there's like the reacting kind of force to the stuff that life presents. And so if I'm then focused on poor me of I got this virus, I cannot at the same time pay attention to my tasks, the things I can control, which is how am I looking at this? How am I talking about this, both in my head to myself and then out loud with other people? And how am I behaving about this? Because it's like when I'm in like a poor me situation, I'm not behaving in my best interest. You know what I mean? It's like I might be poor me, I'm heavier than I want to be or something. And meanwhile, I'm not doing the things that would make me less heavy than I want to be. I'm not eating the right way, I'm not exercising. And so like, but supposedly that's what I want, because I'm saying to myself, well, poor me, I'm so heavy. Like that's me saying, I wish I weren't this heavy. And then the things I can actually do to change it, I'm not doing. So I'm like, there's an inconsistency, an incongruency in my personality then when I'm saying one thing and doing the other. And so, just to like wrap this up, it's when we're focusing on the things that have already been served up by life instead of us focusing on the aspects that we can actually control.
Yeah. Okay. Let's hear from Ryan.
Okay. President James Garfield was a great man, raised in humble circumstances, self-educated, and eventually a Civil War hero, whose presidency was cut short by an assassin's bullet. In his brief time in office, he faced a bitterly divided country as well as a bitterly and internally divided Republican Party. During one fight, which challenged the very authority of his office, he stood firm, telling an advisor, "Of course I deprecate war, but if it is brought to my door, the bringer will find me at home." That's what Seneca is saying here. We'd be crazy to want to face difficulty in life, but we'd be equally crazy to pretend that it isn't going to happen. Which is why when it knocks on our door, as it very well may this morning, let's make sure we're prepared to answer. Not the way we are when a surprise visitor comes late at night, but the way we are when we're waiting for an important guest, dressed in the right headspace, ready to go.
That reminds me of kind of what Francis Lucille was saying about like inviting, like how to treat unwanted, like thoughts that you don't want to have or something. So this is like, how do you treat the things you don't
Circumstances?
the circumstances you don't really want, like how do you treat them? And it's the same approach as like inviting them in, saying, not necessarily like trying to be completely intertwined in them, but like inviting them. It's open, the door's open, come on in. I understand this is going to be a problem, but you know, let's deal with this. Because otherwise, kind of what he was saying, that like if you don't do that, you keep the door locked, they're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Like they're gonna be just knocking on the door until you have to do something, right? Like it's going to continuously bug you. So the way to deal with it is to actually inviting it in, even though it feels like, oh, okay, like I'm inviting an unwanted guest into my place, but that's essentially what it is. Like, here's a bed, here's a fridge, help yourself, welcome.
Yeah. It's uncomfortable.
It's uncomfortable, but we are here together, type of a thing. Yeah, like accepting it that way, or having this image. It's hard to accept. This image is easier to accept than the reality of what life kind of sometimes serves us. But this image helps with accepting the reality. When the reality shows up, you can say, oh wow, this is the thing that I really don't want. Okay, so this is the thing that I need to try to open my doors for and let it in. Oh,
you have to
so uncomfortable, but let's try it.
You have to remind yourself when you're going through it that this is the hard thing.
And you might give up. You might say, no, get out of here. Doors close again, right? Because you can't deal with it or something. That's okay. As long as you're testing that boundary of letting them come in and out, and then you can, you know.
Are you talking about circumstances or thoughts?
Circumstances, thoughts, because I am interchanging them as that it applies for both.
Okay. I would say, like, the way I see circumstances differently is, like, sometimes you can't turn them away, you know? Like, sometimes it's just, like, this is with you and you're...
Yeah, I'm saying when I say turning them away, I mean turning yourself away from it. AKA, I have to deal with it, but I'm gonna have this crappy attitude about it.
Like letting yourself be your old shitty way about things sometimes, because it's too exhausting to be on this like self-improvement train 24 hours a day. It's like sometimes you just have to have the meltdown or the tantrum or like whatever the case may be, and then you come back to the work and you're trying to show up. And I like what he was saying too about like being in the right headspace. And because for me, like the idea that like pain is kind of a constant of life, more or less, or like difficulties, challenges, mistakes, failures, obstacles, I'm never going to weed those out completely. Till the day that I die, all of those things are going to be happening. And so I sort of grew up with this like weird idea, this like fantasy idea that life shouldn't have any of that. And so to have any of that is like fundamentally and almost it points out a problem, but like a big problem, like a problem that needs to be solved. Like it's a problem that I'm having problems. You know what I mean? Like I have this idea that life should be easy or something like that. And so when I know that if I can get realistic and like really get to the point where I understand and accept that like mistakes, all of these things are an always forever pain, work, constant in life, then
not constant, but
they're always going to show
they're
up.
always at the door.
Right.
Yeah.
Even just knowing that puts me
They
in a
sometimes stop knocking because you invite them and you do something with them, and now they leave and they're out for 8 hours or something, right? You're not even. But then
you might have a couple of good years, even, you know, like you might not just like years where you're high fiving, like, right?
Yes.
But
Where have they been?
but you know, then they're always around the corner, and so even to just know that already changes my frame of mind and how I'm showing up mentally when the problems occur. Because I used to be like, a problem would occur and I'd be like, oh my God. Like, it would just feel so heavy. It would feel so daunting. It would feel so like, oh, like, I don't want to do this. Like, I want to be, why are you here ruining my life? And now it feels more of like, this is a learning opportunity. Mm-hmm. Oh, this is an opportunity to develop my character. Mm. Oh, this is an opportunity to like expand my research into this area, or to experiment over here, or to be able to like empathize more concretely with this whole other group of people that like up until this point in my life I didn't even think about that much. And so when I look at it more like that, it helps me then like take the challenges like, cool, what cool thing am I sponging from this that's gonna like make me better and like my experience of life better.
Yeah, so the learning part, you're like more inclined to the learning portion of it, like, oh, these are hard times coming, but it's a learning opportunity.
Once I know that hard times are a stable part of life, and I accept that, and I say, okay, I get it. And like sometimes it's like more than I think I can tolerate, like more than I think I can bear. I accept that. Okay, now I'm showing up with a different frame of mind to the situation. And then, for me personally, the learning filter has been like really helpful.
And so maybe also there's another little kind of a point that I feel like it's important to like see or mention or something like the when this shows up, not only to have this approach, right? Like if you have this approach to it of like, oh yeah, I'll open the door and come on in, it's all good. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't try to improve. Like I don't want to just make it sound like, hey, just accept everything that's showing up type of a thing and just be cool with it.
You mean like accept the content of your thoughts?
Maybe like
as true?
Or like maybe like if some like hard times are showing up, it's okay to want them to be better times.
Yeah.
Instead of accepting, well, hey, these are the hard times, so I guess I'm gonna be in them. And I just have to sit here and I just have to be in them, and then something else will shift and then I will not be in bad times. I'm saying we have, again, with the decision making, we have control, and therefore we can try to control the bad times to resolve themselves quicker, let's say, to better times. Not just sitting there and saying, well, I'm in the bad times, I guess I'll sit here. Like, no. Work on getting the bad times better.
Yeah.
Even though they arrived, you don't have the control of them arriving. Yeah. But once they arrive, all of managing it is definitely under our control somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, earlier when you were saying to accept them, I took it more as like accept that they're happening.
Yeah, accept that they're
accept
happening.
That the thought is happening, the emotion is happening, the circumstance is happening, but it doesn't mean like accept it, like fold your cards. In the case of your thought, it doesn't mean accept it like whatever it says to you is true.
Yeah.
Whatever the thought says is true, and it gets to pull you around, and now you're a slave to your thought. Like that's not what accept it means. when
Right.
you what you were
That's what
saying.
I meant.
Yeah.
That's what I meant.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, of course. And so like when the bad time comes, that's exactly what I'm taking from it too, is pay attention to what I have control over, which is like the perspective, the behavior, the things that I'm telling myself, the things I'm saying to other people. I need to be really honed in on that, and that's my lane. Like I need to like slap myself, like get out of the universe's lane. I'm trying to be in the universe's lane, meddling with it, and like, hey, what if you did it like this? And the universe is like, I'm in control. And so I'm like, oh, okay. Like this helps you figure out. I love Stoicism for this reason. I end all our videos like this because it helps me figure out what my lane is here. So I stop meddling in places that I have no business meddling in, and instead I pay attention to my work, the things that I can do to make this stuff go better.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, that's cool. The swim lane. I like the swim lane analogy. Done? Good?
Yeah.
Everything else? Not anything else?
Well, that's it for me, but you tell us if
Whatever,
there's other stuff.
Comments.